We ran out of time in class, and I didn't have the opportunity to introduce the next lab, so I wanted to take the opportunity to do that now. So we've been learning the different components of the skeleton, and just as a review, the skeletal system includes bones, joints, and articulation. That's where bones come together to allow movement and also to hold the skeleton together. Ligaments, which attach one bone to another at a joint, and of course cartilage, which is often found at joints. Joints and articulations are the same thing, so don't be confused with this different terminology. As I mentioned, joints hold bones together, and they also allow for mobility in some cases. Not all joints are mobile, but most are. We can classify joints structurally and we can classify them functionally. We can classify them structurally by the substance that is found between the bones at the joint. Fibrous joints, for example, contain collagen fibers which span the joints, and these joints tend to be the less movable joints. Cartilaginous joints are joints that contain cartilage, and they tend to be a little more movable than fibrous joints. The most movable joints are the synovial joints. The synovial joints contain synovial fluid, and those are the most movable joints. Those would include our shoulder joint, elbow joint, the joints of our carpal bones of the wrist, our metacarpals, phalanges. Likewise, on the lower appendage, they would include our hip joint, knee joint, ankle joint, or I should say the tarsals of the ankle, and then of course the metatarsals and phalanges of the foot. So in other words, those joints that you're most familiar with that are located on the appendages. Further, you'll learn that synovial joints themselves can be classified by the shape of the articulating surfaces at the joint, as well as the number of movements at the joint. You'll learn that some joints do not have any rotation around an axis, and rather the bones slide past one another, such as a gliding joint. That's a non-axial joint because there's no rotation about an axis. Other joints, such as the pivot joint, allow rotation around one axis. They would be classified as a uniaxial joint. Other joints, such as a condyloid joint, where your metacarpals and your phalanges come together, allow movement or around two axes and are referred to as a biaxial joint. And then other joints, like the ball and socket joint of your shoulder, allow rotation around three axes, and these are called multi-axial joints. You'll learn more about those in lab this week. And lastly, for specific joints, the shoulder, elbow, knee, hip, you'll be learning specific structures which are found at those joints. The wonderful thing about these structures that you have to learn, they are named after the bones that form those joints. So if you know the names of bones, it makes it very easy to learn these tendons and ligaments and other associated structures. As always, stick to your study guide. Everything that you have to know is found on your study guide, and the figures in your lab manual where you'll find these structures are noted on your study guide.